I keep looking at this camera, but it's this one, right, Kevin? It's the webcam?
Yep.
Okay,
Do you want to
cool.
turn this?
Yeah, if you could move it, that'd be awesome. Thank you. Okay, guys, we're going in. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the Kind of Funny Book Club for this month. Wow, that was the whole rigmarole, obviously, because we're us and things never work the way we're going to. We were live for a bit. We were doing like 10 minutes of this whole thing. We're all becoming best friends and doing this whole thing. And all of a sudden I hear, oh, it's nothing. Nothing's going on. I'm looking at the chat. I'm like, well, this is great. But thank you so much for sticking with us. We got a crazy show planned for you today where we're going to talk about Yoshi's Island, one of my favorite games of all time. But it's not just me doing this. Oh, no. I am joined alongside the Power Rangers of best friends. Here we got, first off, my boy Zyger. Say hello,
what's up?
Zyger. Tell us a little about
Hey.
yourself, dude.
I'm a Twitch mod here. I'm also in the forums a lot, and I'm just a college kid who has a lot of free time.
That is awesome. I like you a lot. This is a good kid. If you haven't already, you should go to kindoffunny.com/forums, get your username, get on there. He's very active, and he's making sure everybody's having a good time there. So that's super awesome. Next up, we got my other boy, Curtis. Tell us about yourself, dude.
Hey everyone, I am originally from Arizona, currently living in Colorado, and I just graduated law school. Not on the forums yet, but I will be. I hear it's a great community on there, and I'm looking forward to talking about Yoshi's Island.
Yay! All right, and rounding out the group, we got the man himself, Steven. Hello, Steven.
Hey guys, I'm Steven. I'm from Washington D.C. Just started my YouTube channel a little while ago, and I've been loving Yoshi's Island.
Great. All right. So guys, we're going to start this off pretty simply. We're going to start talking about our experiences playing this game. What system did you play it on? Did you beat it? And what were your initial impressions? Let's start with Zyger.
Okay, well, I played it and beat it on Wii U. However, my friend also had the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and I played the first few levels on that. I think it's actually a different experience. I actually felt better playing it on the NES than I did on the Wii U, but I had the Wii U and I had that game, so I just finished it there.
Awesome. All right, so a couple questions I got for you there. Have you played the game before?
No, this is the first time I've ever played it.
Wow, okay. So what do you think were the differences then between the Super Nintendo and the Wii U version?
Mostly just the controllers. Like, on the Wii U, I felt everything was a little bit more floaty than it is on the NES, and I constantly killed myself by accident. Whereas on the NES, I just felt like the controls were better, and it just felt nicer to me.
Awesome. All right, what do you think, Curtis?
Yeah, I played it on the Super Nintendo, actually. I got it off eBay. It's actually kind of fairly inexpensive card. It's like $35. But I thought that it was great. I remember playing, Super Mario World, Donkey Kong Country, games like that on the old Super Nintendo controller, and I didn't want to have it on the Wii U because I thought that might be sacrificing some gameplay because I love that controller so much. Overall, though, I thought the game was great. I thought it was a little bit difficult. That might be more me as a gamer than anything else. I'm not that great at games, but I love playing them. But I found it to be really difficult, but a lot of fun.
Awesome. Now, Steven, what about you?
Well, I played it on my 3DS. I'm an ambassador for it, so I got it free. And I pretty much just played it. I didn't get to finish it because it's just been really crazy at work and everything. But I did get up to World 3.
Nice.
The game is I think it's really good. Like it pretty much like on par, I would think, with Super Mario World, since it pretty much is its sequel. But I just liked how like all the enemies are different. There's a lot of enemies are just you don't see a lot of copies of the same enemy in various older levels and everything like that. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed the game.
Awesome. All right, guys. So, a little background on Yoshi's Island. It is actually the first game that I ever beat back when I was a young little kid. The game came out in 1995 originally on the Super Nintendo, which is kind of late in the Super Nintendo's reign as a system. And something that's interesting about it is that it was facing the competition of Donkey Kong Country and all of those games. And those games had the 3D, the CG graphics going for them and all that, and like that, everyone wanted that. Like I remember all the like kids around me and stuff. They're all up on Donkey Kong Country because it looked so pretty and impressive to them. And Miyamoto himself was the guy that was like, no. For Yoshi's Island, we want it to be different. We want to go sprite based, and we don't want to have that whole CG look and all that stuff. So he decided on the whole coloring book look, and I think that is kind of what sets this game apart more so than any of the other Mario games, and what makes it so different is the art style and the just the atmosphere of the whole thing. What do you guys think about that?
I agree. I thought that the art style was really held up really well. I was playing it on Super Nintendo, but I had it going through a composite to HDMI converter, and I was playing it on an HD, 1080p monitor, and the art style still looked as pretty as I would imagine it would have looked back in the day. And it was kind of crazy, the psychedelic colors and the kind of color book look. It was pretty cool.
Awesome. What do you guys think?
Well, I played it on the 3DS, so I have a smaller screen, so the graphics still looked really, really nice. This was actually the first time playing this one. My first one was Yoshi 64.
Yoshi's Story.
Yoshi's Story, and me and my sister just played that to death constantly.
Mm-hmm.
But because we didn't have a SNES, so we had a Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, the art style is amazing, and I just like everything in the background, the parallax scrolling, everything was.
Yep.
The art style just really pops and really great on a small screen.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Zyger, what about you?
I played it on the Wii U. Well, I could have played it on the TV. I usually played it on the tablet because I just love the way it feels.
I'm with you on that.
I thought the art style was different from everything else from the time, and I loved it because of that. Everything just seemed so friendly and nice, and I loved the design for not all, but most of the enemies in the game.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, the art style was definitely something that drew me in a lot. The other thing just being the fact that it was a Mario game, but it was so totally different. Like, when you look at the Mario platformers, they really kind of fall into different categories. We have the Mario Bros. Series, which is very much, the basics of what a 2D platformer should be. Then you have the 3D Mario games, where there's, the different genres of it. There's the Mario 64, Galaxy, Sunshine type, where it's a bit more of a collectathon. Then there's the Mario 3D Land, 3D World, that are more similar to the 2D platformers, where it's just avoid the obstacles, get to the end of the level, and doing all that stuff. This game is one of the few games in the core Mario series that was a 2D platformer that isn't the same as one of the Mario Bros. Games. I think the only other one really that I'd lump into this group would be Super Mario Bros. 2 in America, where it tried a bunch of different stuff. And the fact that it had Yoshi being the character you control, and the whole 10-second system where if you get hit, you don't lose your life, you need to get the baby back and all that. It led to a lot of really interesting level design decisions and stuff like that. And just the gameplay is very unique when it comes down to it, because the only games that have this gameplay with the flutter jump and all that are the Yoshi series of games. Now, this is probably the only amazing game in that whole series, but what did you guys think about the gameplay and how different it was from the other Mario games, specifically because this was called Super Mario World 2, which is implying it's a sequel to one of the greatest games of all time?
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Yeah.
When I was playing it, every time I got hit by an enemy or anything, I always felt like oh crap, I have to go get Baby Mario, but it never felt super frustrating. If he got hit, I could easily just get him back. It wasn't frustrating that I just kept then getting hit or anything. I could easily get him back and then continue on with the game. But the gameplay, I think, was still, even the flutter jumps, the slightly floaty physics, was still kind of spot on for being a Mario game.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't too difficult to handle or anything like that, and the game gave Yoshi his signature kind of grunt.
Better than Carazon run for E3.
Yeah, exactly.
So Yoshi's grunt, this is pretty much the game that gave him that.
Yeah.
signature sound that you can hear it.
Everyone, give me your Yoshi sound. Yeah. Go for it. Let's go. Let's start with Steven. Go.
Like,
Curtis, let me see yours.
What is it? It cut out for me. I don't know what we're doing. I just wanted to hear you yelling.
give me your Yoshi noise.
Oh my god!
Okay. No, Zyger.
When he jumps?
Yeah, that constipated sound.
Oh my god!
I don't even know. I can't even make that sound.
All right. That was pretty good. But guys, yeah, okay. So I mean, that's another thing. It kind of gave Yoshi personality. You know, actually thinking back, I might be wrong about this, but I don't think the sound was in the Super Nintendo version. I think that was added later for the GBA version, which they then put into the Wii U version because it's the same one on Virtual Console. But either way, another thing about the game that I thought was very unique and made it so special was the boss fights. What were some of your most memorable boss fights?
For me, it was I think it was maybe like World 3, 4 was the frog. That one was probably the most kind of trippy thing aside from the little fuzzy things that you touch. Just the fact that you got swallowed by a frog and had to hit his tonsils, I guess. I assume. I have no idea what it was. But and then at the end, he basically just kind of poops you out, I guess, at the end of the stage once you beat him. That was pretty crazy. That was one of my favorites, though.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about that fight is after you win, Yoshi just he gets pooped out and he's just sitting there, and he has this animation that's unique to only that moment where his eyes are just kind of like, oh god, that just happened. So that's pretty awesome. I know what I really liked about the game is it has a really nice pacing when it comes to the boss fights, where you get the mini boss fight at every 4th level and then the real boss at the 8th level. And they're all just the various enemies that you come across in the game, but just the bigger versions of them. So that was a lot of fun. The frog one was great because it was so unique and you didn't expect that. That was the one twist that instead of you being, or the bad guy being bigger, Kamek actually made you smaller and you got ingested by the frog. So that was kind of cool. What is the rest of your guys' favorite boss fights?
Mine is actually the one where they put the magic on the flower pot, and then like this, the ghost pops out of the flower pot, and then you have to push the flower pot over the edge.
Yeah.
And then you have 2 shy guys on the other end trying to push back,
Mm-hmm.
and you have pretty much just keep ducking and pushing it, and then just keeps falling.
Yeah.
And then eventually he just falls, which I thought was quite interesting and funny.
That's awesome. Zyger, what about you?
This is kind of a cliche answer, but my favorite fight was the last boss fight at the very end where you fight Baby Bowser.
Uh-huh.
The reason I love that fight was because it wasn't what I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Like at first, where he's doing the whole jump thing and hitting the ground, the way you're supposed to beat him is if you do that as well. It took me a while to figure that out. I've been just trying to throw things at him, landing on his head. It didn't work that well, but yeah, that boss fight, the first part of it was different, and then the second part where he's super giant and coming towards you, and you have to throw the eggs in a different way than from the rest of the entire game. That part I thought was really fun.
Oh my god. I mean, you're so spot on about that. That is, to this day, one of the most epic final boss fights in video games ever. Because when you first face off against Baby Bowser in that room, it's a fun fight. And then when Bowser gets giant and the music starts playing, and all of a sudden it's such a unique gameplay moment where you're no longer 2D, where you're actually shooting into the screen and it's a 3D experience with the giant eggs. Man, it's just so like badass, and there's so much like build up to it that it really kind of means a lot as it's happening. I remember feeling so tense when I first played it. As the rocks start falling and like making the holes, I was so scared that I wasn't going to be able to jump across the stuff, and that was crazy. One of the first moments that I realized how epic the game could be was against the Piranha Plant boss, and I think that's the final boss in the 4th world. So or 3rd world. You're about halfway through the game, and the music changes for the first time. The boss fights has a different. It's like more of like a rock thing, and like as you're going down through the sewers and about to approach the boss, the music just builds up and builds up and builds up until you finally face off against this giant piranha plant. And it's just like, oh man, it was so much fun. So moving off of boss fights for a bit, just the level design is often one of the most highly regarded things about this game because it did a lot of unique things. What were some of your guys' favorite levels and why?
I'll go ahead. I think the whole monkey world. Now I'm having trouble remembering which one it is, but I felt like there was a really good theme throughout the entire world. I think it might have been 4, maybe it's 3. That it just always felt kind of jungle, and I thought the monkeys were super annoying in terms of like a gameplay element.
Yeah.
But I thought that this was a really cool game because it was nothing like Super Mario World, where you're kind of rushing to the timer at the top left telling you, you need to beat this in 400 seconds.
Yep.
It was kind of like explore, find the keys, and then go in these very, and it was weird going down a tube or a pipe, I guess I should say, wasn't always going to a different part of the level. Sometimes it was literally just an underground place where these things came up, and I thought that the level design was really unique in that aspect. But one thing that I kind of had issue with, I actually use this as an opportunity to start my own YouTube channel, so I actually really good idea of how long this level that was like 15 minutes long, and then other levels were 4 minutes long.
Yeah.
And I kind of had a little bit of an issue with pacing. I know you talked about pacing with boss fights and having one every 4 1/8. I liked that, but I thought that it could be a little random. So some levels were really long, some levels were pretty short.
Yeah, I feel like that was a problem with a lot of the underground levels. They were treated kind of more like mazes, and you have to get all the keys and figure all that out. And that definitely was some of the more the lower points of the game, I think, overall. It's a good thing the music in those levels is so good because then you can just keep playing and not worry too much. But I agree, a lot of the levels are designed to be a little more quick, and they kind of introduce you to the gameplay mechanics that are unique to that world. And then you kind of use them a bit more, but you always come back to the underground levels, and they're always kind of just, they get progressively more difficult and long and just like confusing, which is cool. But for me, some of the most memorable things, obviously, Touch Fuzzy Get Dizzy, was just such a weird thing to have in a game like that. And I remember it just being a lot of fun, and it was only using that one level, which is weird, but. Man, there's so much. Like, just off the top of my head, like, in the second world, there's the Tetris part where, like, all the blocks start falling, and then you have to, like, jump. Yeah, Ziger? What do you have to say about that?
For that level, it took me a while because the way it all fell down in a certain pattern, and you just had to remember what that pattern was or be quick enough to avoid it. When I was going through that level in particular, I kept messing up a few times because I kept messing up the jump. And going under a rock, then getting trapped, and just watching my little Yoshi die.
Oh,
really
man.
Sad.
Yeah, so like that was very impressive to me, and I remember wanting to play that level over and over. In addition to that, there's in the snow world, there's the level where you kind of ski down the hill, and like it's only in one level, but that's super fun. And there's also the different watermelons where you shoot the fire out, or like you freeze the things, and you can freeze the penguins and use them as platforms. Like, it's stuff like that that really showed how ingenious this game's design was, where it was like I forgot which one you said. I think it was Curtis. You were saying that like there's not the timer at the top, so you are allowed to kind of freely explore the levels, and they incentivize you to do that with things like the red coins and stuff like that. Did you guys find yourself going out of your way to collect the red coins, or did you kind of speed through the levels?
Well, when I first started playing, I wanted to be like a completionist and actually try to get everything. But then I was like, then I realized I'm just really, really busy at work and everything and coming home. And I was like, okay, I want to actually get to not just be stuck on World 1 while when I'm talking to you guys. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to start speeding through these levels, not trying to collect everything. And then eventually I actually ended up in World 3 finally.
Yeah.
But yeah, like in the beginning, I just wanted to collect everything because I just wanted to see everything, like see all the worlds and everything. So I was just it was lots of fun with the game. So
awesome.
I wanted to see as much as I could.
Yeah. Curtis, what about you?
Yeah, I kind of had a similar experience to Steve, and I tried to be a completionist. I think I might have gotten 100 on I think it was 1-1, World
awesome.
1-1. But I'm pretty sure my average was probably like in the 60s, high 60s
Yeah.
for each game. I mean, and it was actually really liberating once I decided to stop doing every single thing that I could. It's kind of like The Last of Us, where like I felt like I was checking out every nook and cranny, but then I would get like a 70%, and I would be like, okay, well, I guess I'll have to revisit that one later.
Yeah, awesome. Zyger, what about you?
Okay, so when I first played the game, I realized after I beat the first level that there's a score thing at the end. There's 20 red coins, 5 flowers, and you have to have 30 stars at the end of it. When I realized that I could get 100% on that, I felt like I needed to. So for all of World 1, I think I got 100 on every single level there.
Wow.
And then I realized that took forever, and I wasn't going to be able to finish the entire game like that. So after World 1, I stopped doing that, but my average was about 70 to 80.
That's great, man. I mean, so for me, I don't think I ever have 100% of that game, even though it is one of my favorite games of all time. I do know that if you get 100 on all of the levels in each world, you unlock bonus levels. And they're just kind of like mini games that at points throughout the game you actually just play naturally. But then in the GBA version of the game, also the Wii U version of the game, if you get 100, you unlock actual bonus levels that are like really, really hard, challenging levels. I think that's the one thing that the GBA version has over the SNES one, because honestly, when it comes to being a port, it's a pretty bad port. Like there's a lot of issues with it, and they added some bad sounds, and the graphics just aren't as good, and the scrolling and all that stuff, which is understandable because it's a GBA game. And another big thing that they made way worse was the music, just because the GBA's sound processing just definitely wasn't up to par, so it sounded a little bit weird. But a lot of the arrangements made by Koji Kondo, who's famous for Nintendo soundtracks, really kind of created a nice little unique thing with this game. What did you guys think about the soundtrack?
Well, like I played it on my 3DS, and I noticed at times the music actually got scratchy. It peaked. It peaked, and it just came scratchy.
It sounded tinny.
Like and it didn't sound all that good. But most of the time, it sounded pretty good. I would have liked to actually hear it in its entirety in the SNES version. If I can find a cheap one, I might use it on my my Superboy. So
awesome. What about you, Curtis?
Yeah, I like the music a lot. I thought it had a really great soundtrack. I had 2 comments on sound, though. One was that I hated the Baby Mario noise when he was off Yoshi's back.
My God. I mean,
it's like the worst sound ever.
It really is. I remember growing up, my mom hated when I played this game because it just like was so grating. Now, granted, that just meant I had to get better and not let little Baby Mario get off. But man, probably should have phrased that a little bit different. Anyways, yeah, like it definitely, like, that noise was horrible, but that's good design. Like it's supposed to sound like an alarm. It's supposed to be very like tense and all that stuff. So what was your other concern with the sound?
Yeah, well, it's not so much a concern. It's just something I recognized, and I'm not like a very musically talented person, and I think I was looking online to see if anyone else had mentioned this, but the dungeon levels, at least for like the first 3 world, sounds exactly like Ocarina of Time's Song of Storms.
Oh yeah, it does.
And it's like it's freakishly similar. Well, I guess Song of Storms was a really cool part of the music as well.
Yeah, Tiger, what about you?
I played it on the Wii U and like the 3DS. Every now and then, it would be all high pitched and scratchy, but I didn't notice it as much. But as far as the music went, I liked the way it sounded.
Yeah,
it was nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the game's soundtrack because I feel like it's very fitting for the art style and for all that stuff, and it's good. And actually, this game is the source of what would go on to be a lot of the standard Mario songs. Like, everyone's familiar with the Invincible Star theme from Super Mario Bros. The do 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 do. This is the first game that kind of added more of a melody to that, which we from then on have seen in every different game. So Mario 64 used it for the flying, like when he has the wing cap and all that stuff, and that's now just the standard song for that. So I always think that's cool, seeing the lineage of where things come from, and yeah, like the boss music is so epic, especially the final boss fight. So for Steven, you gotta beat the game because you gotta You got to
Yeah.
see, you got to see that one. Was there anything you guys didn't like about the game? Steven, go for it.
No, nothing. I can't really think of anything.
Mhm.
I played pretty much two worlds incomplete completely. I just got up to 3-1, and I really haven't. There's nothing really I didn't like. Like
Mhm.
there's nothing that got on my nerves or anything like that. I always had an enjoyable experience with the game.
Great.
So
Cool. Curtis, what
yeah.
about you?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier about kind of pacing in terms of long levels and then shorter levels. One other thing that I thought was a little bit annoying was kind of the star gathering. Every time you'd hit something, you never knew if stars were going to come out, and I felt like it kind of was a cheap trick to kind of get you. I died so many times trying to get stars.
Oh, yeah.
They disappeared pretty quickly,
Mhm.
and everything like that. And then I also thought that this is kind of like a gameplay preference, but with Super Mario World, you can kind of feel like you're getting through a level really well because you almost never touch the ground. You're just always
Yep.
jumping and getting through a level. I felt like this game, you had to be a lot more deliberate with your jumps, a lot more deliberate with just what you're trying to achieve in the level, and you never really got that great flow that you got with Super Mario World, where you're kind of flying through a level really quickly, and you never got that gratification.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I mean, I can totally see where you're coming from with that, and that makes sense. But I feel like I do reach that level of where I feel like with the flutter jump, and it's just like you don't quite get that same feeling as Mario World when you like nail it and you can just like fly through, but very limitedly, just kind of like hopping from like thing to thing to thing to thing. Like you definitely get this nice sense of mastery of the game when you put enough time into it, and so that's really, really cool and interesting. Zyger, what about you?
The only thing I didn't like so much was, of course, when Baby Mario started crying, I always felt bad.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that I had a problem with the flip jump. At first, I wasn't used to that, and that always caused me to either go too far or not far enough,
Mm.
and either die or lose Baby Mario somewhere. But yeah, that took some getting used to. But I mean, by at least the second world, I had it down
Mhm.
to where I thought I had a pretty good job with it.
Awesome. So now, guys, we're totally missing out on something here. The fact that this is one of the most important shooting games of all time. So you play Yoshi and you shoot the eggs at things. How did you feel about those mechanics?
Actually,
Well,
another thing that kind of
yeah. You can go, Curtis.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I thought that this was another thing that was kind of annoying is that I didn't know until I think it's World 4 when they finally tell you that you can push R and L to pause the actual
to
cursor
lock
from
it?
going left and right. Yeah, and I thought that was something weird about this game where like you'd still be getting instruction boxes like in World 4, and I was kind of like, oh, this is weird. This happened in World 1 and 1-2 in Super Mario World.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I thought that it was kind of ahead of its time in terms of ricocheting off different walls,
Yeah.
kind of skipping along water, and I thought that it was cool that you carried 7 behind you, and sometimes you'd be completely screwed because you didn't save enough level.
Yeah. Awesome. Steven?
I found that it was really, the egg shooting was really well done. Like pretty much everything about the shooting, the way you can aim it. Like I said, me and my sister played Yoshi's Story like crazy.
Yeah.
So I pretty much just kind of like ingrained in me like how to aim and everything, because that game you had to get even more precision down in order to do certain things. So I was pretty much just kind of going back to it, even though it is the first one, and then Yoshi Stories later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found it pretty much same use.
Cool. Zyger?
I had the same problem where I didn't know you could lock it.
Yeah.
So the entire time I would have to wait for it to come down or up, and I didn't know that you could also position it. So I spent a lot of time just waiting for the shot to go right and then shooting. Every now and then I would miss and I'd have to try again. Sometimes I would run out of eggs, so I have to go backtrack, eat a guy, then come back. But overall, I like the shooting mechanic.
Yep.
And I thought it was interesting how some of the eggs could ricochet off walls, or certain walls at least.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Yeah, I remember being a little kid and having so much fun just ricocheting and bouncing and just seeing if I could hit things in certain ways and all that stuff. And like that, again, this game it is just a platformer, but it felt bigger than that to me because it always had those like adventure moments where you kind of are just like, all right, here you're in this world, you can kind of have fun and do what you want to do. Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we're leaving out. Is like to you guys, is there any moments or any mechanics or anything that you think that we should talk about?
Well, I liked in some of the parts of the game where it's something that if you needed eggs, instead of giving you like an egg box that you just keep hitting, they would actually give you enemies that constantly come out of a pipe until you had enough.
Yep.
I like that because that way you didn't have to go searching for eggs. That, like, say you go so far into a level and then you realize you don't have any eggs, or you have like one egg when you need like 3 or 4. I do like how they just those enemies just keep popping up. The shy guys keep popping up when if you actually need it to progress. So
awesome, Curtis.
Yeah, you kind of touched on this earlier. The fact that it's called Miyamoto and his influence on it, I just wonder why it's even called Super Mario Brothers 2. Until I think it's like World 4-1, you kind of you see Goombas for the first time, and you're like, oh, okay, I can kind of see what we're doing, but I think it's kind of weird. Was it just kind of trying to play off the commercial success? I don't know the.
I mean, I'm sure, like that has to be it. Like it just at the end of the day, what would sell better, Mario World 2 or Yoshi's Island? Like they knew what they were doing with that. And do I agree with them calling it Mario World 2? No, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I still refer to it as Yoshi's Island. And it's such a different type of game. Like it's funny because Mario World in Japan is Super Mario Bros. 4, but that would technically make this Super Mario Bros. 4 2. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of weird. So naming gets a little iffy and stuff, but at the end of the day, like when it comes down to it, you can tell why it was called this. They were trying to compete with Donkey Kong Country. They were trying to get that all going. And this was also a very late Super Nintendo game, like 1995. Like keep in mind, Mario 64 was right around the corner. So I think this was like their last hurrah of just like let's use the name, let's get it out there and go from there. And since then, we've seen Yoshi's Story, Yoshi's Island DS, Yoshi's New Island, and Yoshi's Story holds a very special place in some people's hearts. The other games not so much. They're not good. They're like really bad versions of this game, and that's upsetting. But something that people need to remember is Yoshi's Island, the one that we just played, was the last 2D Mario game for almost a decade, or like over a decade. Like in between that, the next one on consoles specifically, the next console 2D Mario game was New Super Mario Bros. Wii. That's insane. Yeah. That's like a 13-year difference. Before that, though, if you count handhelds, there was the New Super Mario Bros. On DS. But that's crazy that this was the end of an era when it comes to those 2D platforming games. And to me, I always feel like it gets left out of the conversations when it comes to talking about Mario World and Mario 3 and all of those games. But I feel like it definitely deserves a spot. Is it better than those games? That's very hard to say. They're all perfect, they're perfect in different ways. But how do you guys think that this game compares to those classic games?
Well, I think it's pretty much like right up there with Super Mario World. I have Super Mario World on the SNES, and I play it occasionally. And I think it's like almost like right up there, even though it's still amazing. It's both of them are just amazing games. But also, I think they used Super Mario World 2 for the game as like the game name, and have a colon of Yoshi's Island, and then is because if I'm not mistaken, the first Yoshi game was for the NES, and it was just called Yoshi, and I'm if I'm not mistaken, it didn't really do that well.
Yeah, exactly. There was Yoshi, Yoshi's Safari, Yoshi's Cookie. These are games that nobody cared about. They weren't really great games, and so I think that Nintendo definitely knew what they were doing when it came to. They're like, well, we have this character Yoshi that obviously people like. He's a dinosaur. That's freaking cool, and it's from this game Mario World that is an obvious huge success. So let's just go from there.
Yeah, I would definitely lend it to that because they didn't want to just call it Yoshi's Island and then all of a sudden it just people obviously they probably remember those older games and they're like, this is just another version of this, of those older games, like just this newer version. So, but then when you put the title on that Super Mario World 2 is like that gives them a different idea. It's like, oh, they actually have the courage or the confidence to put one of their greatest games as this is the sequel to that game.
Yep.
So more likely they're not going to they said more likely they won't screw it up.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, another kind of interesting way to look at it that I haven't really thought about before is, back in the NES days, there'd be Zelda, Mario, Castlevania, and then you get their sequel, and they're drastically different. Mario 2, the one we got, Zelda 2, Castlevania 2, they're all so different. Different types of games, but it had the same feel overall. And in a lot of ways, this kind of did that same thing, where Mario World and Mario World 2, totally different games, but they have the same kind of polish. And if you like one of them, you're probably going to like the other, even though it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Curtis, what do you think?
That's a really tough question because when you start talking about where to place it in terms of Mario games, it's like, where do you place it in the best games of all time?
Exactly.
For me, I think Super Mario 64 is my favorite Mario game. That was right. When I was growing up, this was like a tiny bit before my time. But I am kind of upset that I never played this when I had a Super Nintendo. So I think that kind of makes me feel like it probably holds its own when compared to Super Mario World, because I feel like this would have against that in terms of quality.
Yeah.
But in terms of where it stacks up of best Mario games, it's probably like third or fourth for me after Galaxy, 64, World, and 3.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. And, you actually just brought up Galaxy, which reminded me earlier I was saying that the invincibility theme you can see come up in as being influenced in the later games. Mario Galaxy totally got its inspiration from the boss fight against the Raven when you're on the moon running around. Did you guys catch that?
No.
Yep.
I did not. Now that you mention it, I can see that. I didn't think about that when I was playing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you're running around with the gravity on and stuff. And I remember when we first saw the trailers for Mario Galaxy, I was like, yes, it's happening. We're going to get a 3D Raphael the Raven fight. We never did. But one day. I'm still holding out for that. So I guess the final question I have for you guys, before we go over to the chat for a bit, and I want to see what other people's reactions are to this game. Do you think that it holds up for being in 2015? Can you just play this game for the first time and have it be a game that you say is really amazing? Because to me, I think it's so polished and so good that you can just pick it up at any point and love it. But do you guys agree?
Yes.
Yes.
100% yes.
Because I did that, so.
Same here.
So.
Yeah, it was my first time playing it too, and I think that if anything else can be said for it, I think it's that it does hold up really well. I mean, a lot of the mechanics are mechanics you see in games today, but this is still an extremely unique game too, I felt.
Awesome. Zyger, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I really want to go through all the levels again and 100% them, but then my backlog is incredibly big, so I don't want to do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, do any of the three of you have any closing final thoughts on Yoshi's Island?
I would say that if this came out today, pretty much it would 100% still hold up, because a lot of what we're seeing now in a lot of indie games is pretty much this style of graphics, this style of gameplay. This would totally, if this was released now, nobody really would bat an eye, say, oh, that's old, that doesn't look good. They still would say it looks beautiful. The game mechanics are still solid. Everything still works,
awesome.
Perfectly from
Cool.
So.
Curtis?
Yeah, I think Zyger just kind of jogged this in my memory that, there's not many games in the Super Nintendo era. I played a decent amount, but I didn't play all of them, obviously. But I think this was kind of unique in terms of completionists. I mean, this was a great game for completionists because it gave you tons of feedback in terms of how much of each level you've played. And I think that is a really unique aspect to it. One other thing that I forgot to mention about not necessarily liking it was kind of the overworld was not really an overworld like Super Mario World was. There's not many secrets. I saw the two, question mark levels for each world, and I kind of figured that was because I needed 100% everything.
Yeah.
But other than that, there wasn't much to bring you back and keep you in the overworld like there was in Super Mario World. But I think it's a great game. I think it holds up well.
Awesome. Zyger, closing thoughts?
If anyone hasn't played this game before, like all of us haven't, you should definitely check it out. This game is fun. I love it.
That's okay. That's perfect to close on for this. Yoshi's Island is fun, and I think that's something that if you haven't played it, or if you have, replay it because it is fun. It's going to make you smile, and it's going to make you remember why you loved 2D platformers so much back in the day. A lot of people still do, but it's so unique in the shooting mechanics and the flutter jump and all that stuff. It holds a very special place in my heart, and I think for good reason. It's one of the few games that has that nostalgia kind of kick on me where, like, the game could be horrible and I'd still love it just because of what it means to me, but it's not. That's the beautiful thing is I go back and play it and I'm like, oh wow, this holds up so well. And it's one of the few games that I go back to and try to replay maybe once every 2 years or something and just kind of remember like why I like video games and why Yoshi's Island specifically is so important to me. Let's go to the chat real quick. I want to see, did anyone else play? Like, what are your guys' thoughts? Let's do this for just a couple minutes, and then we'll close out this baby. I love how Zyger is in the chat as he's here. You are such a gentleman and a scholar. What do you say?
I gotta watch both. Oh, what?
What were you saying?
I was just saying that I like to watch both the stream here and the chat. Because I like reading what a lot of people say. Someone mentioned that is Yoshi's Island better than Criminal Girls? Those are both two totally different games, but they're both amazing. Just check out both.
Awesome. All right, let's see. We got Vanguard Update says, in 2015, it definitely holds up. Remembering well playing it in my younger years, it was an amazing, but now especially it has more of a chance to hold up and gain popularity with the resurgence of side-scrollers and completionists and even speedrunners. This definitely can and should have an amazing place in 2015. I agree entirely about that. Let's see who else we got here. We got Amy in the chat. Shout out to Amy. Gray's Advent says Tim should play Yoshi's Island on stream. You know what? That's a good idea. One day I might want to do that because I haven't played my 2-year yearly run through in a while, so we'll have to do that. Robin Gaming is My Life says doesn't hold up compared to other 2D platformers of the era, in my opinion. It's really interesting. I would love to hear why. Cell Processing says I love Yoshi's Island, but I still have a hard time calling it a Mario game. Fair enough. It's definitely not a Mario Brothers game, but that's fine because it's amazing. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Triforce Raptor says, I love you, Tim. You the man. Thank you. I loved Yoshi's Island, but I didn't really enjoy the other 2 Yoshi's Island games. I am right there with you. I think Yoshi's Island DS gets a bad rap because it's not a horrible game. It's just not an amazing game. Yoshi's New Island on 3DS can die in a fire.
Hey, Tim, I have a question for you.
Oh, yeah. What's up, man?
Are you excited for Yoshi's Woolly World, and do you think it's going to be anything like this?
That is a great question. Thank you for bringing that up. I am very excited for Yoshi's Woolly World. I am worried because they have not done a good Yoshi's game in a long time. And you look at this and you're just like, uh-oh, this isn't looking like I want it to. Like, why have the Yoshi games been bad? Because they're not challenging. They're way too easy. They are made for little kids. Like, not the good type of Nintendo kids that kind of means everybody. But they're actually made for really little kids. The soundtrack is horrendous. The sounds are grating, and like everything about it just feels wrong, and it's just bad. Having said all of that, Yoshi's Woolly World looks like it's a little bit on the kiddie side, but I like that it's a unique art style. They are going back to that original thing they did with Yoshi's Island, which was, let's do something different. And granted, it's been done before with, Kirby's Epic Yarn, but at least they're not doing what they did with the last couple Yoshi's games, which is just like create this really ugly CG thing, which goes exactly against what Miyamoto wanted. Like the Yoshi's New Island on 3DS looked like a really shitty version of Donkey Kong Country, and that's not good. Like that's really not good in 2015. But Woolly World, the little bit I played of it last year at E3, it's not as easy as it looks. I'm not saying it's hard, but it's not mind-numbingly simple, and that's a good sign. I'm really, really hoping that it's a return to form for Yoshi. So we'll have to see about that. But ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Kind of Funny Book Club for this month. This has been Yoshi's Island. Thanks again so much to Steven, Curtis, and Zyger. Oh, there you go. There you go. And of course, I'm Tim Gettys. Next month, we have Greg Miller returning from his grave to do Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. That's going to be on Wednesday, June 3rd at 4 p.m. Now, if you guys didn't know, Greg Miller loves him some Peace Walker, so that should be an entertaining one. I'll be all up in the chat for that one, talking to you beautiful, beautiful people. If you haven't already, go to kindoffunny.com/forums. Go talk there. Let's make a thread. Let's talk about Yoshi's Island. I want to keep this conversation going. Whoever it was earlier that was saying that they don't think it holds up, I want to talk to you. I want to know why. But until next time, thank you so much, everybody. I'm out. Greg, help me turn it off. I don't know how to turn it off.
You go up.
Broadcast?
Off Twitch. Yeah, broadcast, then click on Twitch.